A little bit of background for me, a little bit of background about me. I was born in Scarborough, grew up in Oshawa. My parents emigrated from Korea. Actually, from first they came from Korea, went to Germany, Germany to Canada, and so my parents are immigrated in the I guess early 70s. There was a wave of Koreans that came. But growing up in Oshawa until high school was a very unique experience. Got to really, it was a city, it was an industrial town, gone through a lot of changes with GM, things that you're hearing now about auto and closures and changing of shifts. I experienced that through my childhood and how it affected businesses and life. Being not a lot of diversity in Oshawa, but really, was grateful through as I was growing up with all the support I got through the public education system and give me a lot of experiences to, where as a Korean, if you're not a doctor or lawyer, you're not really, you know, it's like if you, that's the expectation. So for me to be a creative and be an urban designer, studied landscape architecture. Really, I love drawing growing up. Drawing was sort of, the thing that I just kind of enjoyed. Didn't think I could make a career out of it. Very difficult to convince my parents. But now that, after, going to Guelph, I love nature. I love camping. I love exploring the outdoors. It really informed me when I came to Guelph and I started studying here, about trying to discover landscapes and place and culture, because I think that's something that I personally was seeking, being, not from Canada or culturally, but I am from Canada because I was actually, small fact, I was actually born on Canada's Day. So it's kind of, a little bit funny for me to think about how much this country has meant to me. But yeah, so I think I put that into my work. I'm very lucky that I feel like even I worked for many multidisciplinary firms, MPTW, HOK. I worked for NAC Design Strategies, but then to start my own company called Urbantypology was really something I never thought I was going to do. But at some point, when I took the leap in 2020, right in January 2020, so just before COVID, one would have said, that's an odd time to start a business, which it was truly, but it was also a gift because, this is where we are today. And so what you're going to be seeing in the next slides is basically the work we've been doing since. So as we say, Urban Typology is a creative design company that brings together 55 years of landscape of leadership in design, execution of urban design and landscape architecture. I have three other partners. One of the other founding partner was my CFO. She is an accountant and charter accountant. She worked for KPMG as a partner, but then worked for design firms and then joined me as well. And I have two other landscape architects, both in Ottawa, Lisa McDonald and Scott Mason, uh, and who has been working in the Ottawa region and abroad. And so, yeah, we've worked a number of our past clients and collaborators. I do a lot of work with developers. A lot of my projects are about designing communities, designing the future of large-scale developments. But so I work with Mattamy Homes, Minto, to name a few. I've also worked designing the last phase of Celebration Florida, a Disney project, which was super fun, getting a business card that had Mickey Mouse on it. uh, Growing up loving Disney movies. But we also worked for the city of Ottawa, the federal government. Currently we're working with Live Nation also on a project, and we work with a number of architectural firms as well as indigenous communities. So, yeah, we participate on projects all across Canada. Um, and, again, from visioning through design, through implementation, we try to be involved in the project from day one, and we've been lucky to do so. Um, so yeah, again, for both public and private sector, um, there are a number of projects that we get involved in, and some of our like for example, my partners Lisa and Scott, they've worked on Parliament Hill, they've worked on uh, different heritage type projects as well. And currently we're working on the Diefenbaker Plaza, which I'm going to show you in the future, in the coming slides. So we say we are two disciplines that come together to create place. Through the urban design and master planning, we're about creating the vision of place. Through master planning and urban design, it's about finding the place, building the structure, and then orchestrating the experiences, as we like to say, and then building the sense of place. We create, but then we also build. And so through landscape architecture, where it's all about, for us, the character. What are we, you know, what are we trying to achieve in terms of feeling and experience? It's about the quality of the material and the execution and how it all comes together. A number of different services from due diligence and feasibility all the way through identity creation. We provide a number of services to our clients. Um, Even currently, we are working with the City of Ottawa to do a feasibility study on the urban design of 5 major downtown streets, um, which is, an amazing thing to consider, being the capital that our company of 5 years gets to assess some of their key important infrastructure pieces within the city, not only from a tree inventory and preservation and health perspective, but also from urban design, safety, SEPTED kind of approach, which is the work which is all going to lead towards um, future budgeting and capital projects in the future. But this is the feasibility study. So we provide budgeting and costing as well. Just to give you some project examples, this is Cedar View in Ottawa. It's for Mattamy Homes. From on the left, what you will see, is it your left? Yeah, I think it's your left, the same. This was a rural estate community, meaning acre, 2 acre lots, because it was in close to a neighborhood that was very similar to that. But due to its location to an employment area, and where there's going to be jobs, there's commercial, all within a 5, 10, 15-minute walk. Our client wanted to create something that was more appropriate to today, and thinking that we can create a more of a walkable community, as we know that car dominant communities need to evolve. So by capitalizing on potential transit, could there be a place that is more appropriate? And there was also an existing park, and then the designing of a sort of a mixed use node, as well as how the trails, the different built form, it's all layered together with transit and circulation. Um, so yeah, and funny enough, um, sometimes we want to just finish a design day one after, you spend, a month, 2 months, 3 months, you think it's over. I've been working on this piece of land for more than 10 years. So, and it's still not moving forward. We're still in the design process, but we've submitted applications. But it takes a lot of work to get a land to move, and land evolves. And it's funny. I think I think I must be on probably more than 30 versions of this plan. So it's very interesting as a process. But you know, our clients use us for multiple reasons to help tell a story, to communicate a vision, um, and to help them move the needle because it takes time. As we think about place, we think about seasonality. This is still a cedar view, but you know, showing how we're going to make a public plaza or a community center, and then making sure that it could function for both seasons because Ottawa is a winter city. We get involved in future transit areas. This is a transit. Egerton is a future transit stop in Milton, in between existing Old Town and Mississauga. Um, so this growth area has the opportunity with this new transit station to be a new city in Milton, more dense than even existing Milton, just because of transit. And so, um, we were involved with what you see on the left, developing the plan, figuring out, how does the transit station function um, with all the parking and the buses and then how do you create a community around that that could be mixed use that has office functions with walkable, accessible public spaces, and and yeah, and then how transit and multimodal uses can function in this area. So it's not always about thinking about what's in your site, but what's also how does it connect and function with adjacent lands. Um, yeah, and then part of this is to tell the story to convince the municipality that there's merit in this approach, working with other landowners um, that may not have the same sort of urban design sophistication, but getting them on your side to develop something that is that's going to work and also feel good, right? Because what you see on the left here in this plan is what the city had produced, this secondary plan that's just purple. And with roads and connections and as when we got involved, we started looking at this. We're like, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the left, there's that on the west side of the plan, you can see that road going up towards the tracks. And they even perceived that would go through the tracks. And then, when you think about underpasses and overpasses and how they're built and how much land they consume, that there was never ever going to be an overpass or an underpass in this location. So it's funny what people draw, and if you don't question it, and you don't ask and you don't act critically and think critically, something like this can move forward. But then when you see on the right of this plan is after we got involved, where we started really, it becomes more of a mosaic of uses and functions with a purpose and meaning to create more of a tapestry of land uses that are trying to work together with parkland, with a channel that's kind of zigging through it, locations of future rec centers. And so we had one quadrant of the square, the one that's closest that has a goat symbol in it. At the end of the day, we got to influence the entire secondary plan as another landowner hired us to do the bottom right piece and then just trying to make it all pieced together. Lock and key. It's, when you get the privilege of designing a community that's beside water, lots of fun stuff can happen. Water is special. It's not often that you get it. It's actually a luxury in some sense. But we got involved, and initially they just wanted us for our landscape. They wanted to help them with the park design and so forth. But then when I looked at it, I'm like, well, the way it was originally designed, I wish I could show you guys what was originally done, but from the main road as you enter the community, you would never seen the park because you wouldn't even know the water was actually that close. So we redesigned it through a number of options. So this was option three, which the client eventually went with, but there was actually six different options, six different concepts that I had to work through um, to convince them that this was the right way to go. But it was the idea that we want to pull the water experience deeper into the intersection, the main intersection, and the main artery that's going north and south, and get them more connected to the water. Thinking of developing this sketch, working with our landscape architects to develop, I guess, another story of how do we bring that water experience closer to the intersection. The idea of a one-earth and mixed use, and how does commercial function, and how much is too much is also another question, because the hardest thing is to fill commercial with businesses that will last. Thinking about all those issues, and yeah, really continue developing a story of what could that waterfront experience be, the parkland experience be, um, even like um, you know, how do we get more people to the water as part of the story? Because this is in Welland. Sorry if I didn't say so before, but Welland had created a recreational canal all along that waterfront. So we want to add to that recreation, that experience. And this also helped the clients move forward on this piece and negotiate with the city and actually purchase this land and get it developed. So yeah, it's a very yeah, exciting parcel. And then, it's been, I guess, a privilege of mine. This is a site in Saskatoon. We Urban Typology was hired by ENSCA, which is a indigenous development firm and consultancy to work with a indigenous community to develop this piece of land, which was bought in the 90s by English River First Nations, which was always envisioned to be a place for economic development. Um, in the 90s, they didn't know what that meant. Um, Early days, that meant a gas station, maybe some offices, some other types of uses. But now in modern day, with all the treaty rights, all the reconciliation action items, this has become a different type of project now. On the left, there's going to be a number of different uses. This was the original concept on the left, where there was going to be in blue, industrial type, light industrial. One of the largest employers in Saskatoon is Nutrien, which, if you don't know what potash is, it's fertilizer for farms, which is basically 95% of, or something like 95% of US's fertilizer comes from Canada. And the trade barriers are often affecting the farmers right now. But I digress. Well, we can talk about that later if you want. But um, then there's the idea of commercial, the idea of typical commercial. Then there's the idea of mixed use or Main Street or office type uses in orange, as well as recreation. There's a hockey rink, so there could be sports. But then when we got involved, which is where you start to see the plan evolving on the right, we started talking about main streets. We talked about arrival experience as you come into the community. We talked about a central gathering space, a place where the community, the culture could gather outdoors for celebration, just for everyday life, right? Um, just to give you a little bit of a window in terms of what we do. As I say, I like to draw, so I always draw. And when you're drawing on I think this might have been 150 acres, 130 acres. I draw 1 to 2,000, which may seem very small to some people. Some people draw 1 to 50, 1 to 100, 1 to 200. I draw it at 1 to 2,000. but I'm starting to try to figure out the intricacies and the connections between the roads and the places and the built form. There's a hydro corridor that's cutting right through it, so you try to deal with that because you can't just take things away, especially dealing with the power companies. As I keep sketching, as I keep exploring, I look at the different angles and how they feel. On the bottom right, you see that curve coming in from the highway. That's sort of the main entry and the arrival. How does the built form address that street? Do we come into a roundabout, or a traffic circle? As I started looking at the interface between the hydro corridor and the park, and the potential pathways and walkways and how things flow through the site and connecting other uses and buildings. But again, I like so this a lot of this work happened within a month, just so people understand how fast I move. And sometimes you're just forced to based on the client needs and the meetings that you're set. I do I in this studio here that I have, I'll be here late at night, just like you guys, trying to figure it out, trying to find the right um, you know, finding that the right story, the right piece, the right graphic, but then also thinking about, how do I communicate? This is directly from the presentation to the client about placemaking and why it's important. Because one thing I loved about this English River and this group was that they're very practical. They don't, they're not so, they want to do things that are best for interests for their group, and meaning that they didn't necessarily were worried about showcasing their culture, right? About, um, I'm going to speak frankly, this is words that coming directly from them, not me. So, you may take it as a shock, but they weren't too worried about the indigenous, showing that they're indigenous per se. Like the idea of the idea of a teepee being as a major symbol. They said they weren't so worried about that. But as I started thinking about this place being a place of jobs, economic growth, of culture, of there could be medical, there could be office, there could be um, you know um, different types of businesses, that this place was really an opportunity for culture, and to reinforce that even from how it would be important to them, because I really felt that there was no other place like this in Canada, where if when I started thinking about it, that 90% 90% of the people that are going to be working here could be indigenous because there was so much benefit. So to me, that was fascinating. I think it could be less, could be 75, but even still, majority of the people working in on reserve in this economic hub could be indigenous, which sounded kind of phenomenal to me. But really thinking about that this is a destination, that this place is going to be a place of commerce, and jobs. But let this also be a place of innovation and culture. That it really dawned on me during this process that this was really an opportunity to be I guess, a symbol, like like the North Star for other communities to do something innovative and forward thinking. And so this was the master plan that we presented. Um, and as you see, all the roads will all lead towards what we call Willowheart Circle. And Willowheart was a indigenous member of the community, was a member of the community who was seen as a visionary leader. And so, after discussing it with some of the people there, we said, like, for me, I felt compelled to call it Willowheart Circle, and which it is sort of today but the idea of innovation, Main Street, hotel, medical, office, all kind of converging on this place was very exciting and honestly one of the most um, satisfying projects I've ever been on. For me, it was so inspiring to be part of them, and I got to visit their land, visit their community. But even crafting up a statement like this, which is like an idea from our heart, we just want to write it down and see what it sounded like. That this development, Poplar House Innovation and Culture Hub, will be a flourishing mixed-use district serving as a powerful reflection of English River First Nation and a model of economic sustainability and value for future generations. As a nexus of industry, commerce, arts and culture, and entertainment, this unique destination will be a demonstration of the relentless spirit of English River First Nations community and be a future model of development success. And this is a long process. When you work with land, when you work with people, you need to convince a lot of people that something like this is worthy of investment of the effort. And so, now, we're in that next stage of concept to now the politics. We're building models. We are, trying to find the right views. We're starting to layer in the story of the landscape through, we were lucky. They invited us to their reserve that was like 4 hours north of Saskatoon. Um, one of the kind of the coolest experiences of my life. I met, getting, going down a jet boat, a boat with a jet engine, kind of like going through the rivers of Saskatoon. Amazing. But also realizing that, we get to redefine what landscape means in this development, that we don't have to necessarily conform to colonial traditions, right? Like the idea of grass. Who needs to cut grass, right? So maybe this idea that the landscape can be more wild. Um, and not to say there wouldn't be any lawn for uses, but that there could be a different way, a different vernacular. But then even finding ways to communicate the things that are important to them and the materiality. And this community was there's a reason why it's called Poplar House, and how this community see the poplar trees and what they mean to them as a community and how they would use it. Yeah. Um, from the large visioning to design and of smaller spaces, we get involved in a lot of different projects. This is a skateboard park. Actually, there was various before because I took one out, but I just decided. So this is actually Kalia Mamalu. It's a new skateboard park. So this is hot off the presses, guys. So I thought I'd throw it in there because it's different. It's unique. It's about skateboarding. Kalia Mamalu was a famous skateboarder that became internationally renowned skateboarder that's from Ottawa. And so the city of Ottawa wanted to, and the councillor wanted to create a skateboard park in in the community that he grew up in. And yeah, so you get to see, we got to work with a skateboard design company, very well known, that does championship size or competition ready skateboard parks. And then working with us, getting integrated into the park setting, to work with the community, find out what they need, how do we, and make adjustments. Uh, and one of the things that this community wanted was a shade structure, to deal with, to give respite on a hot day, because people will be skateboarding all times of the year. And so, creating a design for this shelter. And then, yeah, just coordinating and changing of the topography and the land forming of the park and around it for people stadium seating or just views, like sitting on the berm, looking back at the skateboard park area. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really fun park. Really excited to see this one come together, which should probably start construction next year. Um, for the Ontario Catholic School Board, we were hired to help develop nature-based play environments, nature-based learning environments. Um, and in the past 2 years, we've created 29 different 29 nature-based play areas for the school board. And and just to give you guys a perspective, from design to construction, we had to construct. The first year was 13, the second year was 16, but and these sites were all across Ottawa, and to have to manage the construction process was quite a feat within 2 months, because from when school ended, construction started and had to be completed and done before the school year. So you literally had until August 31st. Some didn't finish, and which was okay. Like they were, but most of it had to be done, which is, I have to admit, I'm at awe of our landscape architects and what they are able to finish and do, because at the end of the day, it was about the kids, right? The kids needed, it was for them, and we want them to use it before the winter came, right? So they had a short window, but it was a lot of fun. And you guys are probably understand there are uh, CSA standards, right, for park playground design and so forth. And all this had to be approved to CSA standards. Yeah, very fun project for the team here. Just give you some other perspectives. You know, you get involved in a lot. We get involved in just really different stuff. And we were invited by an architect to help them on a museum in Ottawa called the Ingenium Canadian Agriculture and Food Museum. And it was for the an animal paddocks area. Um, One of the things that there was some great change, and one of the one of the big components of this was making it accessible, um, and understanding how important that is for mobility to ensure that there's equity in the landscape. Um, and so, and then how does it work? How do you create a showcase piece? The materials, um, the fencing, um, and so there's a heritage component and understanding that as well, that there are existing conditions and existing character that we wanted to achieve, so that it works with the environment that it's in. And so here's some of the renderings, the scale, the portion, the space, the movability, the interaction between the livestock um, and its ability, and having this sort of taking the same idea as like a cul-de-sac, and but making it for people, and so that they can look at the various quadrants as they move around it and interact with the different livestock was key. And my only sad part about this is that with all the budget changes of the government, that this one got shelved. Shelved meaning it's not over. They love the work, but it's not going to move forward until budget is freed up for it. Another project that we worked on, which is interesting, was this is the Diefenbaker building. This was a former city hall of Ottawa City Hall that was actually purchased by the federal government as when City Hall moved to its current location. And then it was renovated by Mosh Safdie, who is a famous architect. And if people don't know, he's the one who did the Habitat in Montreal, ahead of its time. We see all the modern architectures where they're using these modular kind of boxy kind of, Safdie could be credited as being one of the first, if you ever look at his Habitat building. Um, but how we got involved is that this plaza was built a number of years ago, and it was using precast concrete pavers. And because of salt, because of freeze and thaw, the um, the result of it is basically a destroyed plaza space that's constantly being patched over with asphalt. And in some sense, at one point, I think a diplomat tripped and fell and hurt himself pretty badly on one of these broken pavers, which spurred this project, which we got to get involved in, which is great. And this being the Diefenbaker building and being also a project that was designed by Moy Safdie, this had a lot of heritage related issues in terms of materiality, color, the existing grid. The existing grid actually goes inside the building, and how do we bring it, and thus needing to preserve it. This was option three options that was produced by our team. You know, other ones had different new landscape elements in it, but it ended up moving forward, I think, with this option. And even the idea that granite could be the type of granite and the color of granite was so important as part of the heritage that we couldn't just pick any granite or any supplier or any cost. It had to be a very specific look. And you know, this is some more details in terms of how it was communicated with lighting, with bike racks, with the material changes from dark to white, gray, granite, and how it extended even into the sort of maybe even a concrete drop-off area, um, as well as future planting and other areas. Uh, Sorry, this wasn't the best um, quality page, but as you can see, like, you know, typical layout, each concept had its own layout page like this, where it communicated the different elements. So probably something that you guys are learning about to do nowadays. It's still done, but it's important to really not over clutter it, but allow it to communicate your intent. And now we're in construction phase and mad rush. The things you learn in construction is that as you've been tearing things up, as you see what you're seeing in the right is actually the underground garage. So there's an underground garage, even though there's a surface issue, um, water goes anywhere. And so anywhere it wants, it'll just go down. And so there's a lot of issues with old when you're working in old architecture and old buildings, super complicated, very, very complicated, and lots of issues. And you guys got snow, I'm assuming, in Guelph, but Ottawa got recently snow, and the architects and the contractors are working like mad to try to make sure it's waterproof so that in the spring, because it's not done yet, it's not going to be finished until next spring. But yeah, dealing with construction and the complexities of it is something that our company dives headfirst into. But it's a very complicated site. So that's us. You know, we say we're a creative studio that practices the art and science of placemaking. And yeah, we've been sort of grateful for our journey. And yeah, this is our studio here in the Junction. But we also have one in Ottawa. And yeah, it's been you guys enjoyed it.